I'm not going to lie, as a live musician, I've never been a fan of amp modelling technology. I just don't feel like it has the same response, the same feeling, the same look, if you like, on stage, if you're going for that kind of thing. I just can't, I can never get my head around it. I'm not really much of a tweaker in terms of like setting parameters and all that kind of stuff. I just like to plug in and away I go. But since I've not been doing much any live music really at all with a full band this year, I've had more time in my home studio, and since upgrading to Logic, I've really got into using their amp designer with some really good results as well. I kind of run a bit of a hybrid setup of my normal pedal board into the front of the interface and then into the amp designer, so I'm still running some kind of analog pedals there as well as the digital stuff. Again, I don't think I could do this live with the modelling stuff, but for recording purposes, it works really well. In my opinion, anyway. You can record a piece, and then if you don't quite like the amp sound, instead of having to re-record it like you would do with a normal amp, I can just change the amp model, tweak the EQ, move the mic position, change the mic, and it's all there in the box. So I mentioned in a recent video that I've just upgraded my interface to this Odin ID14. As you can see, it's got 2 channels, both with independent phantom power. It's not a global phantom power like the old Behringer that I had. So that's really useful for when I'm using different mics on different inputs. I really like this scroll wheel for changing volumes, and also this middle button here, the ID button, allows me to change the parameters in my plugins. Also, if you notice where my key station is, it's really difficult to get into there to plug in the headphone and the guitar DI. Now the guitar DI is the reason why I chose this interface, so that I can start running my Logic Amp Sim plugins. So anyway, yeah, with the interface being behind my key station, I've made a little breakout box just here, which fits nicely underneath my monitor shelf. So I've got a headphone input which links back to the audio interface, the 2 XLR channels for the microphones, and then the guitar DI. So instead of having to fiddle around the back of here, because I can't, it's really compact, I can just plug straight into the front there, and it makes my workflow a lot quicker and a lot easier. At the minute I've not got the tube preamp routed to anything, but there are some cables in just down here, so I can plug in microphones and patch it into the front if I need to. But at the moment, like I say, I'm not using that. Okay, so as we can see, I've got Logic open, and this is a track that I'm currently working on, which I can't really go into too much detail about at the moment. But as you can see, I've got Amp Designer, and I'm currently using a Silverface combo. But there are so many different amps. A favourite of mine is the vintage British stack. Now obviously you can clearly see it's modelled after a vintage Marshall, so something like a Plexi. But the best thing about it is that you have a reverb, and you have typical amp effects like a tremolo and vibrato, as well as your master volume, presence. And what's good about each amp model is that if you hover over the EQ, for example, you can change the style of EQ, the tone stack. So if you like a model amp, but then the EQ doesn't quite fit in the mix, you can change it and choose a different tone stack to go with that amp. Same applies for the reverb, so you can have vintage spring, simple spring, all the way down to a nice warm reverb. So you can change the style of reverb. You can't do that with the effects, but that doesn't really make much difference to me. You can change the type of cab. So if you choose a vintage British stack, it opens up by default with a vintage British 4x12. But you could go crazy and do something like a little tweed 1x12 if you like, or you could even go direct if you're running a different sort of cab IR or cab sim. But at the moment, I'm tending to just stick with the stock ones. I have been using the 2 notes as well occasionally with some Celestian IRs, but I'm still kind of experimenting with that at the moment. Moving over to the cab, you can change the position of the mic. Now obviously you've got a Condenser 87, which is, I think we all can guess what model that microphone that's modelled on. If you click on there, we've got a 414, we've got a Dynamic 20, we've got a 57 type mic, we've got a 421, a 609, and then a ribbon, obviously a Royer R121. You can change the positioning by just hovering over the cab, and you can change the positioning of the mic on the speaker as well, which I really like. So I recorded a bit of a sample a couple of days ago using this amp model here and my pedal board. So the pedal board, I'll put a picture up on the screen as well to show you what the pedal order was and what board it is. It's just my typical studio pedal board. So I'm running my NGS Custom overdrive pedals into the front input on my little breakout box, into the front of the Audient, and then the amp sim. As always, thanks for checking out another Tea Time Treats. If you've not already, please hit that like button down below. It really helps out those YouTube algorithms. Hit the subscribe button as well and the little bell icon. Drop me a comment in the box so that I know what you think about these videos, and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.